Hi guys, good evening. Thanks for coming out today. So I'm Nigel and my friends Sing Sing and Sego. We are from the GM department, and today we'll be presenting an introduction to global macroeconomics, specifically focusing on economic indicators and currencies. So we start with a disclaimer. As usual, everything that we'll be presenting is based solely on our opinion and is in no way constitute any investment or trading advisory. So this is the overview of our presentation today. We'll be touching on common macroeconomic indicators, institutions and economic calendars, and after which we will go into introduction to currencies, specifically focusing on euros, USD and RMB. So, global macroeconomics is a new topic for NUS investment. So we wanted to start by asking a very fundamental question. So what is the purpose to understand global macroeconomics? So as it turns out, global macroeconomics events, they are important drivers for investment success. As if you remember a few weeks back, we presented about trading with the trends. So these trends, they are inherently macroeconomic events driven. So in this case, investors that ride with global trends will find excellent opportunities. But it's important to know that when we talk about opportunities here, it doesn't exactly mean following with the trend, or just like going with the crowd, because trends will change and surprise events may unfold. So following on global macroeconomic trends will allow you to discover where all these turning points are and effectively manage your entry and exit properly in this case. So having awareness of GM allows you to hence better able to react on all these different factors. So with all that is going on, we have so many data and everything that is coming out from all the newspaper and all the different research reports. So the next question then becomes, with all these things that are going on, how do we keep track of everything and what do we look out for? So we think that it could be useful to categorize the different economic indicators, and in this case we categorize it into three different segments: the output growth, prices and employment figures. Of course these are not exhaustive, there are still many other ways to categorize it, but effectively we think that these are the three ways that we could categorize things to understand them a little bit better. So first for output growth, right? Output growth. So for output growth, one of the most important indicators in this category would be your GDP, which is your gross domestic product. So what is your GDP? It basically measures and puts a monetary value to the output of the economy, which effectively indicates the size and composition of the economy. Like how much of your economy is driven by consumption spending, how much is it driven by your manufacturing, for example, so on and so forth. So it's just like your typical income statement, but in this case, it's an income statement for a country as a whole. So it's tabulated for a specific time period, like we have monthly GDP, quarterly or annually, and we use it to compare between the prior years or prior time periods figures to understand about the growth and the decline of the economy. So why is it important? It's because it gives your investors an overall picture and it guides the actions of policymakers in the event that your GDP figures are less than desirable. So next indicator that we'll be introducing is your industrial production index, which is IPI. So earlier on we talked about GDP. So for this case is an indicator of the economy's output in the industrial sector rather than for the whole economy. So why do we focus on the industrial sector? Because as it turns out, your industrial sector has a quick reaction time to the ups and downs of the economy. That is your business cycle fluctuation in GDP. So in this case, it's also correlated with your consumer conditions or consumer spending, which gives us a more current view of the economic health of an economy, rather than waiting for your GDP figures which may be tabulated maybe at the year end. So for the category of prices, we will be introducing about consumer price index, which is your CPI figures. So why specifically consumer? That is because consumer spending is the most important economic activities for most economies. So it drives economic policies that pertain to the prices that they face. And the prices that they face in this case is measured by inflation. And basically how you measure CPI is we will take the economists or statisticians, they will take up the major price changes of a basket of goods, of essential goods such as your medical care, food, transportation that a typical consumer will buy. And it's, this CPI is an important variable for currency valuation because rising prices leads to the central bank to react by raising interest rates. So next for the category of employment figures, we will be introducing about employment rate, which is very intuitive. That is the percentage of your labor force that is unemployed and they are currently looking for work. So it's important to note that for employment figures, for unemployment rate, it is a lagging indicator of an economy because for unemployment, when you are applying for social welfare or unemployment insurance, it takes time. And by the time these figures is released, it may not be a true reflection or a precise reflection of the economy. But still, there is merits to look at this figure because it gives you a preamp of what the consumer spending pattern might be like. Because consumer spending is highly correlated to your labor market conditions. And there will be major influence on monetary policy as well. So, in summary, we talk about 4 economic categories, and this is how it currently looks like. So a good way to track these figures or a good place to look at these figures could be the Federal Reserve. Like Federal Reserve, they typically track the economic indicators of major economies like US, Eurozone, and Japan countries. So they will publish and update the figures daily. So if you're interested in any of these figures, go into there to take a look at it. Of course, another slide for economic indicators with projections would be the economists. The economists indicators, they publish it in a more detailed form. Rather than tracking just the major economies, they look at your developing and emerging markets as well. So you could switch to your preferred location if you wish to, and it gives you a projection figures that they update twice daily. So it's also a useful way for you to take a look at it if for you to refer to. So next we will move on to institutions and economic calendar. Yeah, so in the preceding section we discussed some of the common economic indicators and what they imply. So the economic institutions, they introduce economic policies in response to less than desirable results from these indicators, and the key reactive agent for this type of work would be your central banks. That's why we felt that there was merits to include a notion, a slide on the central banking institutions. So basically, what do central banks do? Say basically they ensure economic and financial stability through regulations and conduct of monetary policies. So wherever we heard about, sometimes when we read news, we heard about monetary contraction or monetary easing. So this is basically the changing of what they call a conduct of monetary policy when they change the adjustment of the money supply within an economy. So as you can see here, these are like some of the conventional toolkits that they have. For instance, they have those reserve requirements, they have ability to conduct your open market operations, which is changing the money supply in the economy. But after the financial crisis, increasingly there is more unique toolkits, like I'm sure some of you might have heard about those quantitative easing or those idea about helicopter money, which is new policy toolkits that the central bank has introduced. And it's also an important institution because they provide economic research in those data that we have discussed earlier. These are some of the institutions that look into these data and do research on them. So market volatility. So this idea of market volatility really ties it back to the initial question that we asked about what is the methods of understanding about global macroeconomic events. Because the most volatile time in the market is around the release of all these global macroeconomic events. For example, all those high impact events or data like your GDP figures or interest rate decisions. So when these figures are released, there could be a high level of price fluctuation where in this case, if we are talking about currencies, the exchange rate could potentially be spread out over a large range of values. That implies that there is a lot of uncertainty involved, which is also risk, as the prices will be fluctuating within a very large band. So how do you keep track of all these different events? There's so many events that are coming up, and what we have proposed is an economic calendar. So this is used by investors to monitor all these different market moving events, such as those economic indicators that we discussed, and also monetary policy actions by the central banks. So these are market moving events that have a high probability of impacting the financial markets, and investors, they will research the time and date of the release of all these specific events and will pay close attention to the announcements. So in this case, some of the economic calendar, useful economic calendars that you could utilize would be, for example, FX rate. So, for example, you can adjust the time zone to fit the local time zone, and these are your high impact events. It also shows you, for example, in this case, is the release of your Euro CPI and how it impacts, for example, the US dollars. So another good place for economic calendar would be Bloomberg, because it's especially useful if you're new to economic calendars or new to all these global macroeconomic events, because it categorizes the events in a much more detailed manner, and more importantly, when you go to all these event definitions, they give you a very extensive explanation of what all these different events are, like how it affects the markets, and you could, from these definitions, you could really learn a lot from.
Hi guys. So right now, just now you had an overview about all the economic indicators, but now we'll sort of zoom into some of the currencies and the specific events that move these currencies. So we'll be looking at USD and Euro. Now we've picked USD, Euro, and RMB because they are IMF reserve currencies. So that means that the IMF holds them just like in case they need to use it, and a lot of countries as well keep them in their country's reserves. Okay, so just a little background. The US dollar has always been known as a reserve currency. A fun fact is that the reason why it became a reserve currency is because it was seen as the protector of the Western world. You know when they intervened in all those wars and everything. So everybody thought that USA is strong, powerful, so I should keep my currency in that. So that's how it actually became a reserve currency. Before the US, the British pound was the reserve currency. And the USD generally stays very relevant because it's a very big market. So if you're doing an international transaction with someone from another country, you guys don't mind dealing in US dollars because it's a common base, basically. Yeah. And we also have the euro. So it's basically the sole currency of all the EU states. And it's also a very big reserve currency, but not as big as the USD. Yeah, so that's managed by the European Central Bank, the ECB. Let's zoom in on the indicators that will affect both of these currencies. So one of them is interest rate changes, GDP. Just now you saw GDP, trade balances, non-farm payroll, retail sales, industrial production, and the state of the government. I'll be talking more about this shortly. So let's go to the non-farm payroll. Now we talked about the overall unemployment look of the country, right? So the non-farm payroll is released on the first Friday of every month, and basically what it does is it tracks the number of jobs that are added or lost in the country for each month. Okay, so an addition of jobs signals that generally the economy is growing. Okay, if there are lesser jobs, then the economy is shrinking. But jobs should not be added too fast, because if there's too much of jobs being added, it creates inflation in the country. Yeah. So what happens is that a lot of major financial institutions, a lot of universities, what they do is they forecast the increase or the decrease in the number of jobs for the next month. All right, and a lot of traders, a lot of market watchers, they look at these figures, and then they watch for the actual figure to be released by, let's say, the Fed for the US. So what happens is that if the actual figure released is greater than the forecast, now people are more aware that, there's more than expected jobs created. So that drives the currency upwards because the economy is signaled to be growing faster than expected. If the actual value is less than the forecast, then the currency will tend to weaken. Okay? Yeah. So let's look at the chart for when the NFP is released, right? The chart gets really, really volatile. So I don't have a laser pointer, so if you just follow my mouse, this entire red bar was caused by the NFP actual value being less than what was expected. So it was released, and traders realized that it was not growing the country is not growing as fast as they expected to be, and suddenly it just fell, right? So a lot of traders call this the stop loss destroyer because let's say you entered a trade over here, all right, and you took it all the way up, and you're at this point, and you forget that there's an NFP news coming out, right? So a person like me likes to raise my stop loss. You guys know what a stop loss is, right? So I raise my stop loss to like the midpoint of the move just so I can protect my profits. And then what happens? The news gets released and it triggers my entire stop loss. So I get out of my trade gets cancelled, yeah, but the currency still continues moving back into its original direction. So it doesn't alter the major outlook of the currency. It may, but it generally doesn't. So, but what it does is it causes like a shock in the market because of the change in expectations and whatnot. So you must be very careful of this. Some traders like to trade when there's news events. Personally, I like to stay out of it. So now let's go to the trade balance. So usually, this is, if some of you took economics, this is basically your current account. So what it tells you is that the trade balance tells you whether the imports into a country are greater than the exports out of the particular country. So if a certain country has more imports than it's exporting, that means that the country itself values goods outside more than the goods produced in their own country. So that creates a deficit. Alright? And then if it's the opposite, it means you're exporting more than you're importing to the country, that creates a surplus. Alright? So when you have a trade deficit, right, that means your foreign goods are more in demand. So let's take the USD for example. If foreign goods are more in demand than the goods in the US, what I'll be doing is changing my currency to the foreign currencies so I can purchase goods outside, right? So then, oh sorry, I think I've made a mistake. That should be trade surplus, not deficit, the second one. Yeah, so anyways, so when there's a deficit, right, so it means that there's more imports than exports, your currency tends to weaken because nobody wants to hold the USD anymore, right? But if there's a surplus, right, that means that the goods in the US are more in demand, so people will change to the USD to buy your goods, right? So that drives up the price of the USD, okay? We also have retail sales. So what is this? Basically, it's released every month, and it gives you an aggregated measure of the sales that are the retail sales that are happening in the country. So this is it's a very quick look at consumer spending data.
Yet fully open, so it makes gems grow different in domestic and international markets. The thing that you must take note is that it's not available for entities outside China. So actually you cannot trade yuan in Singapore. Actually, yeah, the CNY. So, and also that is set based on the reference rate and trading band determined by the People's Bank of China at the start of every trading day. Yeah, so it's actually regulated by the PBOC. And because of this, right, actually it means that the PBOC indirectly influences the CNH, the offshore market, but just that the impact is not that strong as compared to CNY. So now I'll move on to the offshore market, CNH. By the name, it suggests that it's outside of mainland China. So it includes traditional centers in Hong Kong, Singapore, London, etc. So at the offshore market, yuan trading is more active and market driven, as it's a free float system. But as I said earlier on, it's still indirectly affected by the reference rate set by the PEOC. Yeah. So as before that, there's even much more greater difference between CNY and CNH. But due to the improvement in the system, so actually now you can see that there's a closer trend between the two. So right now we can see that China's financial market is still not fully open, but we will expect continuous opening of China's financial market as the government is trying to promote yuan globalization. So during then, the market forces will be likely to play a larger role. As for now, because you can't trade in CNY, so we can use, let's say, USD CNY as a reference for you to trade in USD CNH. Yeah, because they are usually quite similar. So I talked a lot about the reference rate set by PBOC. So now just more info on the reference rate. So basically, it's a benchmark rate set by PBOC on a daily basis, as I mentioned earlier on. And RMB is allowed to rise or fall by 2% for the rate each trading day. So it's actually quite predictable in a sense. Yeah. And as China tries to allow market forces to play a bigger role, it sets the reference rate based on the three areas. As you can see, the closing rate at China's interbank forex market the previous day, the demand and supply conditions, as well as the exchange rate movement of major currencies. Yeah, so you can see that you can actually find the daily reference rate on China's forex trade system website. Yeah, so it's quite transparent in a sense. So for the last part, I'll be talking about the economic indicators that we can use for reference in trading of CNH. So the first will be the GDP target growth. This one is the most important. It's among one of the most important indicators for China because it's directly linked to monetary and fiscal policy, and also for Chinese GDP targets. Once it's set, it usually has a way of being realized because the Chinese leaders are rather committed on achieving the target. So if you see a better than expected GDP growth target, you will expect the yuan to strengthen. Next is the trade balance. So it's typically considered as the leading indicator of growth, as a huge chunk of China's economy is comprised of international trade. Yeah, they provide insight regarding short-term economic developments, and also for the sub-components of this indicator, the imports and exports, they will show which segments of China's industrial sector are picking up pace and vice versa. So for China, it has mainly been trade surplus, but just bear in mind that in reality, actually, the trade surplus is not indicative of the value of yuan. So, because there are other factors. Yeah, then we have industrial production. So basically, it measures the change in total inflation adjusted production in manufacturing, mining, and utilities. So I'll show you a slide on the composition of GDP for the past 10 years in China. So for China, actually, the industrial sector accounts for at least 40% of China's GDP every year for the past decade. As you can see from the dark portion. Yeah, and because of this, it tends to cause a strong impact on yuan's market movements. And now, the fourth one will be the PMI, which is the Purchasing Managers Indexes. It actually shows the business activities in both manufacturing and services sector. So for China, we'll look at Caixin PMI. Yeah, as you can see, how to interpret this graph is that the line in the middle, actually this one is a 50, is the baseline that you make reference to. So for PMI that's more than 50, right, it actually represents expansion, and those that's below 50, expansion when compared to the previous month. But for those below 50, right, it means contraction, and reading at 50 means there's no change. So as you can see from the graph, maybe around September 2016, there's further growth on both manufacturing and services output at the end of the third quarter. So because they are both above the 50 mark. So the general trend is that you can infer from this is that the service sector continues to expand modestly, which is the gray line. They are all above 50. And for the manufacturing sector is the yellow line. So it actually shows signs of slowing growth and fluctuations. As you can see from here, like there's a dip. Yeah, so it feels like the service sector is more stable than the manufacturing. Yeah, now, last but not least, the PBOC interest rate. Yeah, so actually the aim of monetary policies of PBOC is to maintain stability of the value of yuan and promote economic growth. So as you can see from the graph, China's interest rate has been decreasing since 2014, and this corresponds with weakening of the yuan to US dollar. Like there's definitely decreasing trend since 2014. And this actually, if you pay attention just now, because like China's been experiencing trade surpluses. So actually, if you have trade surpluses, your currency is supposed to strengthen, right? Like as explained by Saga just now also. So this graph actually contradicts the idea, and that the possible reasons behind this is because like consumers' confidence in yuan is still not there, as you can see from the small market of yuan forex market. Yeah, and the confidence in Chinese government is still insufficient because investors are afraid that there's still some degree of opaqueness. Yeah, in the way they set yuan. And another reason is also because that even Chinese themselves would exchange their yuan for USD because they expect yuan to further depreciate. Yeah, so the conclusion of this is that actually a currency is not just affected by the fundamentals. You have to look at the general confidence and speculations of the market as well. Yeah, so that's it all.